Nike, the biggest sports brand on the planet, a company that built its empire on basketball, running, soccer, and tennis, changing the landscape of every sport it entered. And in the late 90s, they had their sights set on something new: golf. At first, it seemed like a brilliant move. Nike had already revolutionized the basketball shoe market with Michael Jordan, turned running shoes into a billion-dollar industry, and became synonymous with global soccer dominance. With their marketing power, innovation, and deep pockets, golf felt like the next logical step, and they had the perfect athlete to build around. Tiger Woods, the most dominant and marketable golfer the sport had ever seen. So they made their move. They started with apparel and footwear, branding Tiger Woods as the face of Nike Golf. The famous red polo on Sundays, the Nike swoosh on his cap, the legendary swoosh ball putt at the 2005 Masters, all of it made Nike feel like a natural part of the golf world. But there was a problem. Nike didn't make golf clubs. They didn't sell golf balls. They were a billion-dollar company that had never built a driver, an iron set, or a putter. That needed to change. So in 2002, Nike Golf officially entered the equipment business, launching its first set of clubs and golf balls. It was a massive step, one that signaled their intent to compete with the biggest names in the industry. For a while it worked. Tiger kept winning. Rory McIlroy joined the team. Nike Golf became a global force. But by 2016, it was over. Nike shut down its entire golf equipment division, walking away from clubs, balls, and bags. After spending hundreds of millions to break into the golf industry, they called it quits. So what happened? Why did a brand with unlimited resources, the best marketing in the world, and the most famous golfer of all time fail in golf? This is the story of Nike Golf's rise, struggles, and ultimate collapse. A cautionary tale of big ambitions, bad timing, and the harsh reality of trying to break into a sport where tradition is king. Nike's entrance into golf wasn't about clubs, technology, or even performance. It was about one man, Tiger Woods. In 1996, Tiger had just turned pro after a legendary amateur career. He was young, charismatic, and already being hailed as golf's next great superstar. Every major brand wanted him. Nike won the bidding war, signing Tiger Woods to a $40 million contract before he had even won a professional tournament. It was a bold move, especially for a brand that wasn't known for golf. Back then, Nike was an outsider in the sport, selling only golf apparel and footwear, while club manufacturers like Titleist, Callaway, and TaylorMade dominated the equipment market. Then came 1997. Tiger won the Masters by 12 strokes, shocking the golf world and igniting a cultural shift. Suddenly, golf wasn't just for country club elites anymore. It was cool, it was powerful, it was athletic, and Nike had the perfect face of this new era. But there was a problem. While Tiger wore Nike hats, shirts, and shoes, he didn't use Nike clubs or balls. He was still playing with Titleist irons and a Titleist driver, and that meant every time he won, he was promoting Nike's biggest competitor. Nike saw the opportunity. They weren't just going to sponsor golf athletes, they were going to own golf equipment. In 2002, Nike launched its first ever golf clubs and balls, officially entering the equipment business. It was a huge moment, but also a massive risk. Because while Nike had the best golfer in the world, they were about to learn that making golf equipment isn't the same as making shoes. Nike could sell basketball shoes, soccer cleats, and running gear to anyone, but selling golf clubs? That was a whole different challenge. Golf is a sport built on tradition. While basketball and soccer fans love new innovations, golfers are loyal to a fault. Brands like Titleist, Callaway, TaylorMade, and Ping had spent decades building trust. Their clubs weren't just equipment, they were part of the game's history. Nike was trying to break into a market where change is slow and trust is earned over time. Their first set of clubs, released in 2002, weren't terrible, but they weren't elite either. Their irons were solid, but their drivers and woods lacked the performance needed to compete with the best. Then came the infamous 2003 controversy. Phil Mickelson, who wasn't even a Nike player, mocked Tiger Woods' Nike clubs in an interview, saying, "Tiger is the only player good enough to overcome the equipment he's stuck with." It was brutal, and the numbers backed it up. After switching to Nike clubs, Tiger's driving stats dropped, while Mickelson's using Callaway clubs skyrocketed. Nike had the marketing, the money, and the endorsements, but they lacked the expertise. Golfers didn't just want clubs that looked cool, they wanted the best performing gear, and Nike wasn't there yet. So they did what any massive company would do. They threw money at the problem. They hired top engineers, invested in research and development, and revamped their entire equipment line. Slowly, Nike clubs started getting better, but by the time their gear was finally competitive, the golf industry itself was changing. And that change wouldn't be in Nike's favor. By the late 2000s, Nike had learned a hard lesson. You can't fake your way into the golf industry. They knew their first generation of clubs weren't good enough, so they went all in on innovation, hiring engineers from rival brands and developing cutting-edge designs. And it finally started paying off. In 2008, Nike clubs finished first, second, and third at the Masters, a sign that they were finally on par with the competition. Then, in 2013, they made their biggest move yet, signing Rory McIlroy to a $200 million contract. At the time, Rory was seen as the future of golf, and with Tiger aging, Nike needed a new face of their brand. That same year, they launched the Nike Covert Driver, a bold, red, cavity-back design that was supposed to revolutionize the game. For a moment, it seemed like Nike was turning the corner, but then golf itself started changing, and it wasn't changing in Nike's favor, By the early 2010s, Nike Golf had finally figured out its equipment problem. Their irons were legitimately great, their wedges were respected, and their drivers, while still behind brands like TaylorMade and Callaway, were at least competitive. So why did Nike Golf fail? The answer isn't just one thing, it's a combination of three major factors: golf's declining popularity, the brutal economics of golf equipment, the devastating decline of Tiger Woods. Let's start with golf's popularity problem. When Tiger Woods burst onto the scene in 1997, golf experienced a boom unlike anything the sport had ever seen. Viewership skyrocketed, courses were packed, and brands, Nike included, rushed in to cash in on the moment. But by the early 2010s, the numbers started dropping. Fewer people were picking up the game. Golf wasn't growing the way it had in the late 90s and early 2000s. Courses were closing, television ratings were falling, and for companies investing heavily in golf equipment, the returns were shrinking. Nike Golf was already struggling to gain traction, and now the market itself was shrinking. Then there was the economics of the golf equipment business. Nike built its empire on apparel and footwear, products with high profit margins and low production costs. Golf clubs, on the other hand, the margins were terrible. To compete with the already established brands, Nike had to spend millions on research and development, but the return wasn't there. While Nike could make $40 profit on a single pair of shoes, they were barely making anything on clubs and balls. And then, the final blow: Tiger Woods. For nearly 2 decades, Nike Golf was built on Tiger's dominance. When he won, Nike won. When he played on Sundays, in his red Nike polo, Nike's stock rose. But by 2014, Tiger was no longer the same player. Injuries, scandals, surgeries. His game was falling apart, and Nike no longer had its ultimate marketing machine. Rory McIlroy was a superstar, but he wasn't Tiger Woods. No one was. And in 2016, Nike made the decision. They were done with golf equipment. After 14 years in the club-making business, they officially shut it down, focusing only on golf apparel and footwear, the areas where they had always been strongest. It was the end of an era. But the question remains, did Nike Golf really fail? Or did they just realize some industries aren't worth the fight? Nike Golf never became Titleist. They never dominated the equipment industry. They never changed the way clubs were made. But they did change golf. Even after their exit from the club business, their impact is still felt today. Let's start with the aesthetics of golf. Before Nike, golf had a very specific look: polo shirts, khakis, and an old school country club feel. Nike changed that, and they introduced modern athletic golf gear, slim-fitting polos, and innovative footwear that made golf look cool again. Then there's the impact on rival brands. Nike's entrance into golf forced companies like Titleist, TaylorMade, and Callaway to evolve. They had to compete with Nike's marketing machine, innovate faster, and appeal to younger, more athletic golfers. And let's not forget the players. Even though Nike doesn't make clubs anymore, many pros still use their old equipment. Players like Brooks Koepka and Tony Finau still have Nike irons in their bags, proving that by the end, Nike's clubs had finally reached an elite level. But in the end, it wasn't enough. Nike could dominate shoes, apparel, and accessories, but the golf equipment world was too competitive, too expensive, and too loyal to its old school brands. Still, their story is a reminder of a simple truth. No matter how big you are, no company is invincible, and even giants like Nike sometimes have to walk away. It's been nearly a decade since Nike Golf shut down its club business. But what if they had stuck it out? Could they have eventually overtaken Callaway or TaylorMade? Could they have made a driver that competed with the best in the world? Could they have changed the entire landscape of golf equipment? Maybe. By the time they exited in 2016, Nike was finally making great clubs. If they had kept improving, who knows where they would be now? But the reality is, Nike Golf never truly fit in. Golf isn't basketball or soccer. It's not a sport where marketing alone can win. It's a sport where players stick to what works. And in the end, Nike just wasn't worth the fight. So while we'll never see another Nike driver, iron, or golf ball, their impact still lives on. Because even though they left the club business, they changed the game in ways that will last forever. Nike came into golf with a dream. They wanted to do what they had done in every other sport, disrupt the industry, dominate the market, and become the biggest name in the game. And for a while it looked like they might succeed. They had Tiger Woods, they had Rory McIlroy, they had the best marketing on the planet. But in the end, golf isn't like other sports. Loyalty runs deep, innovation takes time, and even a giant like Nike can't just buy their way to the top. So in 2016, they walked away, leaving behind a legacy of what could have been. Nike Golf didn't fail because of bad marketing or bad products. They failed because golf wasn't built for their business model. And that's why today, while you can still wear Nike shoes and polos on the course, you won't see a Nike driver, iron, or golf ball anywhere. Because at the end of the day, Nike Golf was an experiment that didn't work. A bold attempt to change the sport, one that fell just short. And that's why in 2016, they made the only move they could. They walked away. What are your thoughts on Nike Golf? Let us know in the comments. If you love golf content, take a swing at that subscribe button and we'll see you in the next one.